Kale ran until his legs felt like fire. His lungs burned, and every breath tasted like smoke and fear. Behind him, the white towers of Thal Ariel glowed in the night, shining like stars fallen to earth. But Kale wasn't looking back. He couldn't. Not now. He had broken the one law no human dared to break. He had read the secrets of the elves. The forest at the edge of the city was dark and thick. Branches clawed at his arms as he pushed deeper into the trees. The sound of magic still echoed in the air, a soft hum that made the hairs on his neck rise. Finally, when his legs gave out, Kale collapsed near a stream. Cold water rushed over stones beside him. He let himself fall flat on the ground, chest rising and falling, listening. Silence. Then a whisper. "You made quite a mess, little scribe." Kale jumped to his feet. A tall figure stood across the stream, leaning on a twisted wooden staff. A long cloak covered his body, but Kale could see pale elven skin under the hood, and only one eye. The other socket was covered by a rough patch of leather. Kale stepped back. "You're an elf." The man gave a crooked smile. "Was. Long ago. But they don't like me anymore." Kale's eyes narrowed. "Who are you?" "My name doesn't matter. What matters is the name you found. Embercore." Kale froze. "How do you know that?" The one-eyed elf laughed softly. "Because I was there when it was hidden. Before your kind fell. Before the elves broke the world and bent it to their will." Kale's voice shook. "It's real." "Yes. And now you've painted a target on your back." He stepped across the water with ease, standing before Kale. "You need help. I can give it. For a price." Kale didn't trust him. He couldn't. But the name Embercore burned in his chest like a second heartbeat. If this elf had even a piece of the truth. "What do you want?" "Freedom," the old elf said. "Revenge. And maybe to see the world burn bright again before it turns cold forever." Kale nodded slowly. "Then help me find it." The elf held out his hand. "We start now. There's a place north of here, deep in the woods, the Blood Grove. No elf dares to enter it." "Why?" "Because that's where the last humans stood before they fell. And the Embercore, if it still exists, might be buried in the bones of that war." Kale took the elf's hand. The journey had begun. The city of Velsarin stood like a crown of marble and silver, its towers rising high above the earth as if to mock the sky itself. Elves walked its shining streets in robes of gold and blue, their laughter soft and cold. They barely looked at the humans who swept their steps, hauled their goods, or bowed low as they passed. Kale Arden, a young human with dark eyes and calloused hands, worked deep in the underlevels of the elven city. His job was dull, moving boxes of scrolls and old books, never reading them, never asking questions. The elves said human minds were too simple for true knowledge. But Kale listened. He watched, and when no one was looking, he learned. That day, Kale's job took him to a forgotten part of the old library. Dust hung in the air, and the stone walls whispered with age. He moved a broken shelf and noticed something strange, a patch of floor without dust. Curious, he knelt and scraped at it with a piece of metal. The stone shifted. Beneath it was a black box, smooth as glass, humming softly. His fingers trembled as he opened it. Inside was a glowing red crystal, no bigger than his fist. It pulsed like a heartbeat. The moment his skin touched it, the world around him faded. He saw fire, cities burning, 1,000 voices shouting as one. He saw a man, not an elf, standing tall, his fist raised, fire spiraling from his hands. The vision vanished, and Kale gasped, stumbling backward. The crystal had gone dark. But something inside him was awake. Behind him, a soft clink echoed. Kale froze. An elven scribe had seen him. Her eyes widened, and she turned to run. Kale didn't think. He moved. Faster than he should have. He caught her before she screamed, pulling her into the shadows. Her eyes met his. He didn't speak. Neither did she. But he saw fear there. Real fear. A human had moved like that. It didn't make sense. He let her go. She ran. Kale stood alone, heart racing. He looked at the crystal again. It was still silent, but he could feel it now like heat in his chest, like a word he hadn't spoken yet. That night, Hale met with Tarn, a smith who still remembered the old psalms. He showed him the crystal. Tarn's eyes widened. This ain't Elven," he whispered. "This was ours, long before them." Kale didn't sleep that night. The elves thought humans were tools, weak, slow, simple, but he'd seen the truth. They weren't born to serve. They were made to rise. And with the crystal in hand, Hale whispered to the wind, as if the world might hear him. "Let them fear what they buried. Let them fear what they forgot." Kale walked quickly through the narrow tunnels below Velsarin, the embercore crystal wrapped in cloth and tucked under his cloak. Every shadow felt sharper now. Every sound echoed louder. Since he touched the crystal, the world seemed clearer, like waking from a long sleep. He reached a heavy wooden door and gave 3 quick knocks. After a pause, it opened. Tarn, the big smith with arms like tree trunks, pulled him inside. "You weren't followed?" Tarn asked, his deep voice low. Kale shook his head. "No, but an elven scribe saw me. I don't know if she told anyone." Tarn's eyes darkened. "Then we need to move fast." The room they stood in was small and hidden behind Tarn's forge. It smelled of smoke and iron. Maps, scraps of parchment, and strange bits of metal covered the table. Lisa was already there, sitting near the back. She wore servant robes, but her eyes were sharp and full of secrets. "I heard whispers in the palace today," she said. "They're searching the old library. They know something's missing." Kale placed the ember core on the table. It glowed faintly, like an ember ready to burst into flame. Lisa leaned in. "What is it?" "I don't know," Kale said. "But it showed me something. A vision. A human with fire in his hands. Cities falling. Elves running. I think this thing remembers what we were." Tarn grunted. "Then we use it. They think we're weak. Let's prove them wrong." Kale nodded. "Not yet. We need more than fire. We need people. Builders, fighters, thinkers. We need to light this spark everywhere." For the next few weeks, they worked in secret. Kale spoke to stonemasons and street cleaners, bakers and tailors. He asked quiet questions. He listened to angry stories of beatings, of lost families, of lives stolen by the elven whip. One by one, people joined. Tarn taught them to forge hidden blades. Lisa passed stolen messages. And Kale, powered by the ember core, began to change. He didn't just move faster, he thought faster. He saw patterns others missed. He planned. One night, Lisa came back with urgent news. "They've sent Varellin Duskthorn," she said. "An inquisitor, a killer of rebels. He hunts with shadows and fire." Kale felt fear twist in his stomach, but only for a moment. Then the fire returned. "Good," he said. "Let him come." Lisa frowned. "Why?" "He's dangerous." Kale picked up the ember core, watching the red light dance in his palm. "Because if they're scared enough to send him," he said, "then they already know the truth." Lisa blinked. "What truth?" Kale smiled. "That humans don't kneel forever." The sun hung low over Velsarin, casting long shadows across the grand arena where elven nobles gathered to watch the games of skill and strength. The air was thick with perfume and soft laughter, the kind that made humans feel invisible. But today, something was different. Kale stood at the edge of the arena, his hands wrapped around the hilt of a blade he had forged himself. It wasn't just any blade. It was light, sharp, and hummed with a quiet energy from the ember core crystal hidden inside its core. The metal glowed faintly red where his fingers touched it. The nobles turned their eyes toward him, whispering. To them, he was just a human, nothing more than a servant or a fool for daring to step into their world. But Kale felt something new, confidence. Across the arena, a young elven noble stepped forward. His silver hair caught the sunlight, and his eyes gleamed with amusement. This was Darian Valtis, a skilled swordsman trained since birth to fight with grace and precision. He smiled, but it was a cold smile. Do you understand the rules, human? Darian's voice was smooth but sharp. This is a test of skill, not of luck. Cale met his gaze steadily. I understand, he said simply. The crowd hushed as the two circled each other. The clash of steel rang out as Darian struck first, fast and practiced. Cale blocked, feeling the power behind the blow. His arms ached, but the blade's embercore glow steadied his hands. They fought hard, their swords flashing like lightning. But Cale didn't fight like the elves. He didn't follow their old patterns or rules. He used his own moves, unexpected, clever, and wild. He dodged where Darian expected a block. He feinted left and struck right. Every moment, Cale learned, adapted, and surprised. Then, with a swift move, Cale found an opening. His blade slid past Darian's guard and touched his side. The silver-haired noble froze, eyes wide in shock. The crowd gasped. Cale stepped back, breathing hard but steady. He had done the impossible. He had drawn blood from an elven noble. The arena exploded with whispers and gasps. Some nobles looked angry. Some looked scared. But most were silent, too stunned to speak. Darian stared at Cale, his face pale. This cannot be, he said, voice low. No human has ever fought like this. Cale looked him in the eyes. Maybe you forgot what we can do. The elven noble's fear was clear. They had never thought a human could defeat one of their own. Cale's victory was not just about a sword, it was a message. Back in the shadows, Lisa smiled quietly. Tarn clenched his fists with pride. And Cale felt the embercore pulse stronger, like a promise. The war had begun. The cold wind cut through the narrow streets of Velsurin as Cale and his small group hurried toward the city's old archives. The moon was hidden behind heavy clouds, and the city seemed quieter than usual. Too quiet. Cale's heart beat faster. Tonight, they were not just stealing books. They were digging into the past, into secrets the elves wanted to keep buried forever. Are you sure this place still holds anything? Whispered Lisa, her eyes sharp in the dark. Cale nodded. It has to. The embercore led me here. Tarn moved beside him, gripping a small sack of tools. If the elves broke the pact they made with us, we need proof. Something they can't deny. The old archive doors groaned as Tarn forced them open. Inside, dust danced in the thin moonlight that spilled through cracked windows. Rows of stone shelves held scrolls and tomes, many torn or burned. Time had forgotten this place. Cale's fingers traced the spine, searching. Then he saw it, a hidden drawer, cleverly disguised beneath a shelf. With a quick pull, the drawer slid open, revealing brittle parchment covered in strange symbols and faded writing. He pulled out the scrolls carefully, his hands trembling. This was more than history. It was the truth. The elves and humans had once been equals. There had been a pact, a promise of peace and partnership. But something changed. The scroll told of betrayal, of the elves taking power for themselves and forcing humans into chains. Cale read aloud, voice low but fierce. They feared our strength, he said. They broke the pact. They erased us from their stories. Lisa's eyes filled with fire. They lied to the world and to themselves. Suddenly, a noise echoed down the hall. A soft footstep, then another. Tarn cursed under his breath. Elven guards, Lisa hissed. We're caught. Cale grabbed the scrolls and shoved them into his cloak. They ran, shadows slipping between pillars and stacks of books. The guards shouted, their boots pounding on stone. They burst into the open air, hearts pounding, but freedom tasted bitter. Tarn was hit by an arrow. Cale caught him before he fell. We have what we came for, Cale said, voice steady. We can't stop now. The group dragged Tarn to safety, hidden in a narrow alley. Cale looked at his friend's pale face and clenched his fists. We're not just fighting for ourselves, Cale said. We're fighting to reclaim what was stolen from every human alive. Days passed. The news of the stolen scrolls spread quietly. The elves denied everything, calling it human lies and trickery. But Cale knew the truth was stronger than their words. The scrolls became a symbol, a reminder of a history erased and a future waiting to be won. As Kale held the Ember Core close, he whispered, "This isn't just a war for freedom. It's a war for justice." And somewhere deep inside, he felt the fire burn brighter than ever. The Elven High Circle sat in their grand hall, their faces carved from marble in cold pride. They were angry and confused. How could a mere human, Kale Arden, challenge their ancient rule? How could he defeat Darien Valtis, the finest swordsman of their time? But most of all, they were afraid. Fear was a strange feeling for the elves. They had ruled for thousands of years. Their magic was old and strong. Their traditions were laws. But Kale had shown them something new. Humans did not fight like elves. They fought different. Unpredictable. Clever. Back in the shadows of Valseren, Kale gathered with his closest allies, Tarn, still healing but fierce, Lisa, eyes sharp as ever, and a small band of humans ready to fight for their future. "We can't beat their magic head-on," Kale said, pacing. "They're too strong. But they don't expect us to think like them." Lisa nodded. "They fight the same battles over and over. They trust their old ways." Tarn smiled weakly. "We need new tricks." Kale held the Ember Core crystal tightly. It hummed softly, as if agreeing. For days, they planned. They studied Elven patrol routes and messaging spells. They learned the rhythms of the city and the habits of the nobles. Kale's mind raced faster than ever, seeing paths and chances others missed. The first strike came in the dead of night. A group of humans, led by Tarn, sabotaged an Elven supply caravan. Instead of a direct fight, they set clever traps. Tripwires tied to falling logs, smoke bombs made from stolen herbs. The Elven guards were caught off guard, confused and trapped before they could react. Word spread quickly. More humans joined the secret raids. They cut the Elven communication lines, replaced messages with false orders, and spread rumors of a great human army that didn't exist. The elves grew paranoid. High in the spires, the Elven battle mages tried to use their magic to find the rebels. But Kale anticipated this. He and his group created false magical signals, leading the battle mages into empty tunnels and traps of their own making. One night, Kale stood on a rooftop, watching the city below. The Ember Core's red light flickered in his palm. His heart swelled with hope. "They think us weak," he whispered, "but we are fire in the dark." Suddenly, a messenger arrived, breathless and wide-eyed. "An inquisitor has come," Lisa said grimly. "Virellen Duskthorn is here." Kale's smile didn't fade. "Good. Let him see what clever looks like." The war had changed. It was no longer just swords and magic. It was minds and hearts. It was human spirit burning bright against the cold Elven night. Kale turned to his friends, eyes blazing. "Tonight, we fight not just for survival, but for a new future." The city streets were quiet, but beneath the silence, something stirred. Kale stood at the front of a growing crowd, hundreds of humans dressed in simple clothes, faces tired but filled with hope. This was not an army of soldiers. It was a crowd of farmers, workers, craftsmen, ordinary people ready to walk toward a future where they were free. "Tonight we march," Kale said, his voice steady but strong. "Not to fight with swords, but to show the elves we will not be silent. We are many. We are proud. And we are done hiding." The humans cheered softly, the sound echoing through the narrow alleys like a whisper of thunder. Lisa stood beside Kale, her eyes scanning the shadows. "The elves won't let this go easily," she warned. "Virellen Duskthorn hunts for you. If he finds you leading this march—" Kale nodded. "Then we'll make sure he never catches us." The march began under the cover of night. Torches flickered as the crowd moved like a river through Valseren's winding streets. The Elven guards watched from their towers, confused and uneasy. They expected the humans to break, to scatter. But the crowd moved with quiet purpose. Kale felt the weight of the Ember Core in his pocket, a small fire burning in the cold night. It was a reminder of everything at stake. As they neared the center of the city, the Elven battle mages appeared, blocking the way. Their eyes glowed with power and the air thickened with magic. "Turn back," one commanded, voice sharp and cold. "This rebellion ends tonight." But Kale stepped forward, raising his hand. The Ember Core's red light grew brighter. Around him, humans gripped tools, sticks, and hidden blades. They stood as one. "No," Kale said firmly. "This is just the beginning." Suddenly, the air crackled. Magic met human will. The battle mages launched spells of fire and wind, but the humans moved with surprising speed and unity. Tarn led a group that used clever traps, nets woven from stolen elven silk and hidden pits. The elven magic faltered against unexpected resistance. In the chaos, Kale found himself face to face with Varellin Duskthorn. The Inquisitor's eyes were cold, filled with years of hunting rebels. "You think you can change the world with tricks and noise?" Varellin sneered. "You are nothing but a flame soon to be snuffed." Kale smiled. "Maybe. But even the smallest flame can burn down the tallest tree." The two clashed, steel ringing in the night. Kale moved with the Ember Core's power, faster and smarter than ever. Varellin was strong, but Kale's cunning won the fight. When Varellin fell, the crowd erupted. The elven nobles watched in stunned silence. Their perfect city was breaking piece by piece. Kale looked out over the crowd, tired faces shining with hope. "This is our city now," he said quietly, "and it's time for us to build something new." The silver throne stood tall at the heart of Velsurin, a shining symbol of elven power and pride. For centuries, the nobles ruled from this place, untouched and unchallenged. But tonight, the throne's cold light flickered with a new danger. Kale stood at the city gates, leading the human rebels through the twisting streets. The air was thick with tension, every shadow hiding a watchful eye. They moved quietly, but their hearts beat loudly with hope. Lisa whispered, "The guards are fewer than before. The city is divided. They fear us." Tarn, still weak but fierce, nodded. "We've cut their lines, broken their supply. The nobles don't know what to trust." The rebels reached the grand hall, where the elven high circle had gathered. The nobles looked down from balconies, faces pale with shock and anger. "You dare defy us?" shouted Queen Elindra, her silver hair flowing like a river. "We are the rulers of this land." Kale stepped forward, his voice steady and clear. "You ruled by fear and lies. The time of silence is over. The humans of this city demand justice." The crowd behind Kale cheered. The elves gasped. For the first time, they felt fear. Suddenly, the doors slammed shut. Magic sparked in the air. The elven battle mages raised their hands, ready to strike. But Kale smiled. He lifted the Ember Core crystal, glowing red in his palm. A wave of power pulsed through the hall, cutting through the magic like a blade. The nobles staggered, their spells fading. Queen Elindra's eyes narrowed. "You think this trinket can defeat us?" Kale shook his head. "It's not just the crystal. It's all of us. The strength of a people who will no longer be slaves." The battle began. Humans and elves clashed in the grand hall, steel ringing against steel. Kale fought with fierce determination, his blade guided by the Ember Core's power. Tarn and Lisa moved among the crowd, protecting their own and breaking the elven lines. Queen Elindra faced Kale, her eyes cold as ice. "You are brave, human. But bravery will not save you." Kale met her gaze. "Maybe not. But courage can change the world." Their swords met, sparks flying. Elindra's magic flared, but Kale's quick thinking and the crystal's power gave him an edge. With a final strike, he disarmed her. The queen fell to her knees, breathing hard. Around them, the elven nobles lowered their weapons. The silver throne was no longer untouchable. Kale raised his blade high. "This city belongs to everyone, elves and humans alike." The crowd erupted in cheers. The walls of Velsurin shook with the sound of freedom. As dawn broke over the city, Kale looked out from the balcony. The Ember Core glowed softly, a symbol of the past reclaimed and a future being built. He whispered to the wind, "We are no longer beneath their shadow. We are the fire that will light the way. The first light of dawn spilled over Valseren, painting the city in soft gold and warm orange. The streets were no longer silent. Voices rose in song, in laughter and hope. Humans and elves walked side by side, faces bright with the promise of a new beginning. Kale stood on the balcony of the old palace, now a home for all who lived there. The ember core crystal rested in his hand, glowing softly, a quiet heartbeat in the morning air. He looked out over the city he had helped save, the city that had once looked down on his people. Behind him, Lisa and Tarn joined him, their faces tired but smiling. "We did it," Lisa said softly. "The old world is breaking." Tarn nodded, "And a new one is rising." Kale's thoughts drifted back to the long nights of fear, of fighting, of planning. To the faces of the people who had stood with him, farmers, bakers, soldiers, and dreamers. They had all believed in something greater than themselves. They had believed in hope. He raised the ember core and held it up to the morning light. The crystal's glow met the sun's rays, shining like a beacon. "This crystal was hidden for a reason," Kale said. "It holds the fire of our ancestors, the strength we thought we lost, but it's more than power. It's a symbol. A reminder that even when the world tries to keep us small, we can rise." A crowd gathered below, cheering and waving. Children ran through the streets, their laughter ringing clear. Elven and human hands shook, breaking the chains of old hatred. Queen Elindra, now humbled but hopeful, stepped forward. She raised her hand for silence. "The past was full of mistakes," she said, voice steady. "But the future is ours to write together." Kale nodded. "Together." He turned to Lisa. "The scrolls say the pact was broken long ago. Now it's our job to make a new one." Lisa smiled. "One that can't be forgotten." The sun climbed higher. Birds sang. The city breathed with life and freedom. Kale knew the road ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges, old wounds to heal, and new battles to face. But for the first time, he felt something stronger than fear or anger. He felt pride. "We are not just survivors," Kale said to the crowd. "We are builders. We are warriors. We are human. And we are free." The ember core's light pulsed gently, a heartbeat of hope, a fire that would never go out. As the sun rose over Valseren, a new dawn truly began.